The San Francisco 49ers have made multiple roster moves today, but the biggest one being that they have released former fourth-round draft pick Mitch Wishnowsky, who's been on the roster since 2019. And as I mentioned, there have been a flurry of other moves that have gone down today. I think we've had conversations as well about what potential wide receivers are available on the open market could maybe help the 49ers room. We can dive into that. The 49ers have been linked to guys like Keenan Allen and Amari Cooper. We could go through that whole concept and see if that's worth a shot or not. But a lot of roster moves going down today. We're going to recap them all, break them down, and honestly, I think the 49ers might have gotten their hands on a potential starting linebacker for this upcoming season in Chaz Surratt. So I'm going to talk about that as well. And we're going to get into it all right now. But you guys already know what to do. Drop an SDS in the chat, smash that like button, and let's get into it all right now. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. All right, the San Francisco 49ers getting ready, or I guess not getting ready, but OTAs is pretty much underway. We will, I think, get our first eyes on tomorrow with OTAs being open to the media. I believe Kyle Shanahan will be speaking as well. So we are kind of getting into the groove of things in regards to the offseason program, OTAs, and then mandatory minicamp. And as a result of that, the San Francisco 49ers have went through and made a bunch of moves. But the move that really stands out the most today is the San Francisco 49ers moving on from punter Mitch Wishnowsky, former fourth-round pick in 2019. I remember when the San Francisco 49ers drafted Mitch in the fourth. I think anytime a specialist is drafted, I would say ahead of the sixth round, it always is kind of like, all right. Hopefully he's worth it. And for the most part, Mitch Wishnowsky had been pretty solid. But again, it's always just a challenge, at least for myself, when it comes to drafting specialists. It's, I look at what the 49ers have done recently, and I'm like, yeah, that seems like a great blueprint for kind of retooling your special teams room. Don't necessarily need to, draft specialists, but hey, we'll see. Sean says, good to hear your voice, my oos. Been a minute. Let's go. Shout out to my island boy, Sean. Good to see you in the building. I appreciate everyone who's tapping in on the lives. Lives have been a little bit sporadic as of late, but trying to get back into the groove of things, at least for now. And, so the situation with Mitch Wishnowsky, I'm not sure if anyone is necessarily surprised by this. I do believe that if you've kind of been paying attention and kind of watching the situation play out, the signs were there, at least in my opinion, that Mitch Wishnowsky could definitely be on the outs this year. You look at his training camp last year, he missed almost all of training camp with a back injury. They had a ton of punters in for tryouts. He didn't kick in the preseason. He did return for the regular season and kicked in 9 games. And the 49ers then lost him 9 games into the season and had to go with someone else. So, to be honest, the Mitch Wishnowsky thing really isn't much of a surprise. I know on my channels I've actually talked about it a lot in regards to moves that I projected were going to happen. So the 49ers make that move, but obviously they don't make this move without replacing Mitch Wishnowsky, and the San Francisco 49ers signed punter Thomas Morstead from the Jets. They also signed a player that I'm really, really excited about in Chaz Harra, and I'll get to him in a minute. But in regards to this, the 49ers, they get one of the better punters in the league as of late. Morstead has had quite the career, and honestly been a pretty solid contributor for multiple teams throughout his career. So he is definitely a guy that I think is a great replacement. And obviously, he comes in with a ton of experience with Brant Boyer, coming from the Jets on his way over to here. So I like it. I like the move. I think Morstead is a good punter. He's a Pro Bowler. He's a guy who's won a Super Bowl as well. I think one of the things that stood out to me about learning about Morstead was that at one point, I think it was, I don't have it right here in front of me, but I think just a couple seasons ago, he led the NFL in touchbacks. So kickoff touchbacks, I believe was 68. And so to me, that's an interesting element of this because Jake Moody typically handles the kickoff duties for the San Francisco 49ers. So it sounds like Morstead, I would assume, will take over the kickoff duties because that's what he has done and he is good at it. And that has definitely been an area where, let's face it, Moody has struggled in amongst other areas. So you take that off his plate, you give the kickoff duties to Thomas Morstead. I think that frees up Jake Moody a little bit to just focus on kickoffs. But obviously, Moody will be locked into a competition with Greg Joseph. So we'll see, man. We'll see. But I do think that Morstead could present an interesting option for the San Francisco 49ers. And again, has a ton of experience with Brant Boyer, who he just played for last year. So, but that's not the only Jets connection that we have. This is the one that I'm excited about. Like the 49ers get Chaz Surratt, and I was a huge Chaz Surratt guy when he was coming out of North Carolina. I recall covering my first Senior Bowl in 2021, where I went to Mobile, Alabama. I knew who he was heading into Mobile, but I came away really excited about this player. He was ultimately drafted pretty high for the most part. I mean, he was a 3rd round draft pick by the Minnesota Vikings. For whatever reason, it didn't work out with the Minnesota Vikings. He got, I think, released heading into year 2, And then he was picked up by the Jets and was placed on their practice squad in 2022. But over the years of 2023 and 2024, Chaz made some starts. Like, he actually started 17 games over those 2 seasons. He was able to rack up some tackles, like nothing crazy in regard to his stats, but he was also a key special teams player, and he ranked third on the team in special team snaps, and he was first in tackles on the team with 10. So this, to me, speaks to a guy that can earn his way onto the roster through special teams and then chip away at potentially making an impact through the linebacker room. So this is an interesting addition. Again, the fact that both Robert Saleh and Brant Boyer use him. He's not just one or the other. Both of them used Chaz Surratt last year. So I think he actually has a chance to play this year for the San Francisco 49ers. I'm a big Chaz guy. I like Chaz, man. Oh, if we go back, I had to go back into the archives here. I made a Chaz Surratt hype edit. Like, I edited that. Like, I found these clips, put them together, and was like, yeah, I like this guy. So I really liked him coming into the draft. Clearly didn't work out in his first spot, but found a home with the Jets, wound up starting some games, and was a key special teamer. He started 5 games last year, appeared in 17, started 5 games. So starting 5 games as a linebacker, I'm for it, man. I really, really am. Like, I think this guy has untapped potential. And if you guys don't know, he actually started his college career as a quarterback. He actually threw for like over 1,300 receiving yards receiving yards. He threw for over 1,300 yards in college. He had, what was it, like 8 touchdowns as a passer before he switched over to linebacker. So he was always kind of a tweener. Kind of like a safety hybrid playing linebacker, obviously a former quarterback and a decent quarterback at that, who also rushed as well. But yeah, he's an interesting prospect in my opinion. He's first team All ACC as a linebacker, semifinalist for the Butkus Award. Yeah, I was definitely high on this guy. He at one point ranked second in the ACC in tackles and 5th for tackles for a loss. This guy has untapped potential. So I'm high on Chaz, baby. You know me, when I get a draft crush around here, I get excited. So I'm hyped on it. Give me Chaz, baby. Chaz Michaels in the building. And I really don't think he's that old either. Let me just double check. How old are you, Chaz? Oh, he's older than I thought he was. He's 28. So he's 28, but he's entering kind of that, he's in that prime of his career. So 4 years in the league, has played in Robert Saleh's defensive scheme before, played with Brant. Shout out to No Smokey, says this is my first time coming in your stream. Love to see it. What's good, Travis? Backwood said join late. Who we talking about? We're talking about a good, in my opinion, I think underrated signing. Underrated signing in Chaz Surratt. Surratt. Someone's gonna have to help me out with the pronunciation on his name. But I do think that this is a guy who can make an impact this year. I think he'll make an impact on special teams. I think that's how he will carve out his role as potentially making the roster. But I think beyond that, he can actually push for significant snaps. Because, again, D. Winter's been pretty inconsistent. We'll have to see how he does under tutelage of Robert Saleh. 49ers draft Nick Martin. There's no guarantee that the rookie is going to be NFL ready right away. The 49ers did sign Luke Gifford, who's a journeyman special teamer from the Tennessee Titans at linebacker. They got Jalen Graham. They, of course, have Tatum Bethune, who's a 7th-round draft pick, who they're decently high on. And they waived Deshaun White, who was a linebacker that was currently on the team. But now to make room and make some of these moves, they let Deshaun White go. They waived him, but they still have Curtis Robinson, and they did sign Stone Blanton, UDFA, coming up. So those are some of the roster moves that the 49ers have made. And then we have this. Batman says, why haven't teams signed wide receiver free agents Allen, Cooper, or Davis? Will the Niners sign any of them? Actually made a video on this earlier today. Honestly, I don't know if the San Francisco 49ers are going to sign a veteran wide receiver. Now, they definitely could, because the logic here is that we don't know what the status of Brandon Aiyuk and Demarcus Robinson will be to start the season. As we know, Brandon Aiyuk dealing with the knee injury. I actually saw a really interesting post today from Brandon Aiyuk's clothing company. Dang, I don't know if I'm going to be able to. I don't know the name. Oh, I got a screenshot of it. That's right. So let me read this to you. It was super random that I came across this. Super random thing to post. So I don't know if you guys know, Brandon has like his own like low-key apparel, but he hasn't like hard launched it. It's been a soft launch up until this point. And so they only have a couple posts. And someone put this out on his page. It's a bunch about what happened last year. But there's a part from a quote from the doctor who worked on Brandon Aiyuk's extensive 8-hour surgery. Says, quote, "It was like a bomb went off in his knee." I was like, what? Super random post. But the point is that we don't know when BA will be back. You had Matt Mayoko, I think he went on the Rich Eisen show, say that he believes that Aiyuk probably won't be ready to start training camp, could actually start the year on PUP, which means he will miss at minimum up to the first 4 games. Demarcus Robinson dealing with DUI. We don't know if he's going to be suspended up to 3 games for that. So those are 2 players that they could be down. But that's, I think, the hard part when it comes to signing someone like Keenan Allen or Amari Cooper or Gabe Davis is how long will they have opportunity? Because Jawan Jennings is there. We know Jawan Jennings is loved on this team. Kyle loves him. Brock loves him. And they're going to get him the football. Ricky Pearsall is absolutely, in my opinion, going to have a breakout season next year. I think Ricky could put up 1,000 yards receiving, so I think he's going to explode. So I don't necessarily see that as a pressing need. I believe Jacob Cowing takes a step forward in year 2. The 49ers drafted Jordan Watkins in the 4th round. They got Tariq Owens heading into year 2. Isaiah Hodgins, I think, is a sleeper in this room. And then, of course, they got Junior Bergen, 7th round draft pick. Isaiah Nayer, who is a big-bodied wide receiver out of Nebraska as a UDFA. They got Russell Gage and Trent Taylor. I do think the 49ers could absolutely sign a veteran, but the problem with signing a veteran, I would say, of Amari Cooper's, Keenan Allen and Gabe Davis's calibers, those guys want to play. Those guys want snaps. I don't know if the 49ers are going to be able to offer them those things. They may offer them a chance, at a deep playoff run. They may be able to offer them an opportunity to get some early run in the season. But if Brandon Aiyuk returns and is good, and Demarcus Robinson returns and proves to be a solid addition, there's not going to be a lot of targets to go around. And not to mention George Kittle is on the roster and is going to take up a huge share of those targets along with Christian McCaffrey. So I would love the idea of those three. I don't know if those three would love the idea of the San Francisco 49ers. So I don't know if that will get done or not. I'm not going to hold my breath, to be perfectly honest. I think we all would love the idea of adding those types of wide receivers, but I don't know if they look at the 49ers wide receiver room and they say, oh, yeah, there's a clear path here to targets or a clear path to production. I just don't think there is. So I think if the 49ers were to add depth, I don't think it's going to be one of the top end guys, to be honest. So, but again, that is dependent on them. One of the reasons I feel that way is because I don't know if they will want to come here. Just based on target share, opportunity, and things like that. So that's my logic behind the wide receiver conversation. And again, I feel free to drop any questions that you guys have in the chat. I'll definitely turn it over to the chat. If the chat wants to drive the topics here for a little bit, because obviously we've already discussed the signings that have gone down today, with the situation playing out with the 49ers roster and OTAs kicking off. The 49ers could definitely be adding some additional pieces. But what I really think, and where I think the 49ers should consider adding veteran depth, is defensive line. And that's an interesting one. Is there, I don't know if they would consider Jadeveon Clowney a fit or not. I don't know if they would consider Zadarius Smith a fit or not, but I think the 49ers still need some help on that defensive line. I love how they addressed it in the draft, and I do think there are going to be some guys that are going to be able to, help out for sure. But I'm just curious. I wonder who, if any, guys they bring in. Let me look at this list right here of defensive linemen that are available. So you got Matt Judon, interesting. Za'Darius Smith, Jadeveon Clowney, Von Miller. Von Miller's getting up there. Shaquille Barrett. Dennis Gardeck is an interesting one. He's not a player that I would say would be at the top of my list, but I'll never forget. I don't think it was last year. I think it was the year before. I think it was the 2023 season. I was watching film on the 49ers versus the Arizona Cardinals. This guy, Dennis Gardeck, was giving everyone problems. And when I say everyone, including Trent Williams, he beat Trent Williams a couple times. And I'm like, who is this guy? This white guy with long hair rushing off the edge. I'm like, I don't know who this guy is, but he just beat Trent. And it wasn't like, oh, Trent stumbled or Trent tripped. Like, no, he hit him with a nice, like, setup move, rip under. I'm like, Dennis Gardeck, who is this guy? So that's my memory of him. I'm not going to pretend like I watched him play throughout his career. I just remember watching that film and this specific guy standing out because he was switching back and forth. He'd go over, beat Colton, then he'd go over and he'd beat Trent. And I'm like, all right, interesting. I don't know if the 49ers would consider him, but it would be interesting. You got guys like Preston Smith out there, DeMarcus Walker, Carl Lawson, Yannick Ngakoue, Tyus Bowser, Jesse Luketa. I mean, a lot of these guys are definitely not, moving the needle. But there are a couple that I think could, and it would be interesting to see if the 49ers kick the tires on one of these guys. I think it would be a smart move. I think they're pretty good at defensive tackle, honestly. I'm fine with them at defensive tackle. I just would like to see if they could get like a Za'Darius Smith. I think that would be pretty sweet. So, Sean says, how do I feel about defensive end from Cincinnati? I think in a vacuum, I would love Trey Hendrickson on the roster. But again, you're trading for him, you're paying him, and you just drafted Michael Williams, number 11 overall. Are they going to split reps? Is Michael going to play 30% of the snaps? I imagine Michael to play a lot of snaps. I imagine whoever they selected with the 11th pick to play a lot of snaps next season. So that's the question, is that there's so many things to evaluate with the Trey Hendrickson pick or potentials. You got to trade for him, so you got to give compensation. Now, it might not be a lot because you have to pay him. That's why he would be getting traded. So you might be able to somehow get away with like a third-round pick. I don't think it would cost a ton, believe it or not, for Trey Hendrickson because he needs a contract. But then that's the interesting dilemma is, would the 49ers, they have the cap space. They have a ton of cap space. But would they sink that investment into Trey Hendrickson while drafting Michael Williams? Again, I don't know. Again, in a vacuum, would love it. When you consider all the different factors and elements to it, I think I would rather have Za'Darius Smith than Trey Hendrickson, not one-on-one. And I want to make that abundantly clear. If I'm just talking about players, I'm clearly taking Trey Hendrickson over Zadarius Smith. If I'm talking about I got to trade, sign a huge contract, all of those things for Trey, I would rather just call up Zadarius and be like, "What's up, Zadarius? You want to come through for 1 year and help us out on the edge as kind of as a pass rush specialist?" Um, I would prefer that route from a roster building standpoint, but I like the question. Um, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Uncle Salty says, "Hey Brad, another positive day for the Niners in my opinion. New punter and a fast linebacker make it a good day. Next step, a designated pass rusher and Bryce Huff would be nice." This is interesting because let me do a quick little search on Bryce Huff because he is absolutely buried right now on the Eagles defensive line. Bryce Huff is 27 years old. He's entering his sixth NFL season. But he's just kind of chilling. Last year, he only played in 12 games for Philly, 2.5 sacks, 12 touchdowns. But the year prior, he had 10 sacks and 23 total tackles in 17 games for the Jets, obviously playing for Robert Saleh. So I wouldn't imagine it would cost a lot if the 49ers were to trade for Bryce Huff, but they would, from my understanding, have to trade him. I mean, he's been pretty productive as an undrafted free agent in 2020. I mean, he signed a big contract, 3 years, $51 million contract with Eagles. Man, so I wonder what his cap figure is. Let me look that up here really quick. He did get himself a Super Bowl, so I guess it's not all that bad, and he got paid. So heading into this year, so his cap hit wouldn't be bad. Only 7.4. But the Eagles would be taking on a $29 million cap hit. Or dead cap hit, I should say. So that's the interesting part about that is Bryce Huff on the bench signed a 3-year, $51 million contract, $34 million guaranteed for 2.5 sacks so far. If they were to trade him, the Philadelphia Eagles would take on a $29 million dead cap hit. They could potentially do a post June 1st trade. However, the dead cap hit in 2025 would only be 6.2, but that 2026 dead cap hit would be 21.8. So, yeah. Either way, if it doesn't matter if it's a post June 1st release, it doesn't matter if it's a post June 1st trade. If the Eagles let him go, they are taking on a massive dead cap hit. So, do they have the ability to do that? I don't know. So that's a fascinating one. because, like I said, he would take on a massive dead cap hit with the Eagles. So I don't know. Do they pay him? Do they release him? That will be the fascinating part. They had a $15.5 million option bonus. I'm assuming they picked that up because he's still on the roster. So I don't know. Bryce Huff might not be an option for the 49ers just simply due to his ties currently to Philly from his contract. But you never know. You never knows. It's definitely a weird situation how he really didn't play all that much after signing a big contract. Only played 33% of the snaps. But I mean, he honestly would be like the year that he had in 2023 where he had 10 sacks. He only played 42% of the snaps. That's what I think the 49ers need at defensive end. They just need, I think, a pass rushing first type defensive end that can play 35 to 45% of the snaps. That's it. Let Michael do a lot of the heavy lifting. And yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. If they kick the tires on that, I'm sure any Bryce Huff tires would have been kicked during the draft, if anything else. So we'll see what happens with that. If you got any more questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm open to talk about whatever. So let me know what you guys think. Jonathan says, I think these moves are impactful and shows we definitely have a vision that the league will see come regular season time. I actually don't disagree with that. I think this has been one of the better years from a depth building perspective. I feel like the 49ers have been pretty feast or famine with their roster. A lot of top heavy guys, a lot of big names, a lot of good names, but the depth to me has always been kind of suspect. And because of the depth being suspect and then running into injuries, it has just been a trickle down effect where you already have kind of not the best depth, and then those guys are slotted to play special teams, and then those guys have to bump up into playing, depth roles on offense or defense. Then special teams has to pick guys off from the practice squad, or it's like a trickle down effect. So what I find fascinating about this year's roster construction, not only have they obviously targeted to get younger through the draft, but they have built a ton of special team core type players. Luke Gifford, special teamer. Trey Brown can play special teams. Saron Neal can play special teams. Richie Grant can play special teams. Jason Pinnock can play special teams. When you look at some of the offensive guys, Junior Bergen, drafted probably to be a primarily special teamer. Demarcus Robinson can probably play special teams. Jordan Watkins, maybe even Juwan Jennings. Marquise Siegel, the safety. George Odom, Chase Lucas, Jacob Robinson, Derek Canteen. A lot of guys who feel like they could step in and play special teams, but also play some additional roles as well. So I like what the 49ers are doing. I think a lot of people, depending on how close you are to the situation, view it differently, but I don't mind. I don't mind it. I think they're still going to be competitive this year. Would I sign Asante Samuel Jr. with his injury concerns? The last I read on Asante was they don't think he will sign for about another month or so. So probably more so around the beginning of training camp, just because he has a pretty severe injury. I believe it's a back injury for him. Um, and you know, I don't know. I don't know if the 49ers need to do that. Um, Especially with his injury concerns. I'm I feel really comfortable with Diamador Lenore and Ronaldo Green as your starters. Trey Brown, Upton Stout, kind of as your rotational nickels, or guys who can fill in on the outside if needed. Darrell Luter, this is a huge year for Darrell Luter Jr. This is a poop or get off the pot year for Darrell Luter. So hopefully he can be a contributor. He's got great size for a cornerback. If he can, he started out injured as well, and that's just been a tough challenge for him. But if he can be a contributing factor, then I would say the 49ers don't need Asante Samuel Jr. But if the 49ers feel comfortable with his injuries and they feel they need some additional depth with someone who has starting abilities, then I think it's not a terrible idea. But I definitely think they have to wait and see how healthy he is. When are they cutting Moody? One of the more popular comments that I've seen on my Instagram page today, a lot of fans want to know what the F is going on with Jake Moody. So I don't think this decision will be made until training camp. It's basically how I'm looking at it. When training camp is over and they got to cut the final 53, that's when we will know. Unless Jake Moody just completely falls off a cliff in practice, which I don't think he will. I do believe we will not know officially until the final roster cut down day, in which he very well could survive. I don't necessarily think that it's just a foregone conclusion that Jake Moody is out of here. Again, you got to remember they sunk a 3rd round draft pick into him, which means, the day that they drafted Jake Moody, I was like, this a 3rd round pick. That's a equivalent of a 1st round draft pick for a kicker, and we see it all throughout the league. If you're drafted high, if you're drafted at certain spots, you get extra leash. And I think that's it with Jake. And it's a tough situation for Jake as well, because he was actually kicking pretty darn good at the beginning of the year. Then he goes down with the high ankle, and he just never was the same. His confidence went into the toilet, unfortunately. Now he has the opportunity to get that confidence back, and if he can do that, I would assume he'll be the kicker if he bounces back mentally. But I think if he shows inconsistencies throughout training camp, I think they will consider the decision to move on. But it has to be something where if you aren't familiar, typically at the end of the training camp practices, they will do a bit of a kicking portion of the practice. They'll start at like the 23 kick. on the left hash. Then they'll move over to the right hash at the 36 and he'll kick. And then they'll move to a different hash and they'll kick from 43 and then move it, and they'll just kind of move it back. So, and we're all there. We all see it. We all see if it goes in. We all see if it doesn't. And I guarantee you the reception is going to be palpable during training camp, especially the open training camp practices to fans, because fans are going to be paying attention to that. Fans are going to be watching Jake Moody in practice, and they're going to want to see him make those kicks. And if he doesn't make those kicks in practice, the crowd is going to I guarantee it. I can see it now. The stands is going to it's going to be unanimous groan. I can already see it. So if he can't consistently perform in practice, I think that will be it. If he can perform in practice and show consistencies within practice, I do believe he'll make the roster and he'll be the kicker. And he will get the opportunity to make or miss kicks in the regular season if he does that. But that's the stipulation, in my opinion. That's the stipulation. If he can't get through practice confidently, I don't think he makes it to the season. If he gets through practice confidently making his kicks, he will get a shot. That's really how I look at it. So we'll see. We'll see. No guarantee that he is able to do that, but that's what I'm going to be looking for. Let me see a couple other your pick questions that you got in here. Greg says, Alfred Collins, defensive tackle. What do you think about it for the 49ers? I'm a big fan of it, actually. I think Alfred is going to play a lot of snaps. Again, he's dealing with a little bit of an injury. I hope that he is available for OTAs and mandatory minicamp. It's not a deal. It's not a big deal if he's not available, because again, he wasn't available for rookie minicamp due to like an ankle injury. But I think Alfred has been a defensive tackle that the 49ers have been sorely missing for quite some time. Just big body, people eater, a guy who can eat up double teams. I think that's huge. I think that is very important. And it's just something that the 49ers have not had. A guy who can sit there, right there in between the guard and the center, and can just eat up two and just stand there, not get moved off the line, shuck one, split the other. Like, we just haven't had that guy. And I think Alfred can absolutely be that for sure. So that's the way that I'm thinking about Collins. I think he'll be solid. And I'm looking forward to it. This is actually a great question. I didn't even think about this. Why have they not signed Collins yet? Great question. I have no idea why they have not signed Alfred Collins yet. That'll be an interesting element. I don't assume he's holding out or anything of that nature. But hey, we'll find out, especially once it starts to get to that mandatory time. So hopefully they get that taken care of sooner rather than later. Let me see some of the other questions that you guys have dropped in here. Someone asked, where'd it go? Yeah. How do I feel about Upton Stout? I like Upton, man. He was a guy that I was unfamiliar with heading into the Senior Bowl, and he was a guy that I was very familiar with leaving the Senior Bowl. I really liked what I saw from Upton Stout in Mobile. I really did. Again, he just. I think in the videos that you've seen of him and his personality, you kind of see the energy he brings to the table. That's how he plays. He just plays like a freaking dog. Like he is what, 5'8", 5'9"? You know, people are always going to knock him for his size. Man, he does not play that way. He reminds me so much of K'Wan Williams. It's not even funny. And I thought it was pretty interesting how when the situation played out and John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh, they're being asked about Upton. They're like, does he remind you of K'Wan Williams? And they're like, yep, he definitely does. So I think we're getting a dog at that position. I mean, a guy who absolutely is going to be able to, I think, play right away. Based on what I've seen of him in the lead up and what I saw at the Senior Bowl, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the pick. I'll take it for sure. So yeah, I'm about it. Oh, I found it. This is what I was looking for. So I put out this list. I said, so this was when I went to the Senior Bowl, the SF Niners Senior Bowl risers. So these are all guys that stood out to me from that week of practice. Obviously, I had some of these guys on the channel. David Walker was on the channel. Oladejo was on the channel. But as you can see, I had Upton Stout right here as one of my biggest risers from the Senior Bowl. So I'm definitely a fan of Upton Stout. I think he absolutely fits the mentality that the 49ers need at that cornerback spot. And yeah, I'm a fan. I don't know if I got a video in here of him or not. Oh yeah, there we go. There we go. There he is. Look at Upton, man. Uptown Stout. Yeah, look at the feet. Look at the aggressiveness. That might even be Pat Bryant that he's going up against. I can't tell. Pat Bryant, maybe Jalen Royals. No, Jalen Royals is 17. I think that could be Pat Bryant, who I really like. Denver drafted him in the 3rd round. So, yeah, I'm an Upton Stout guy. Upton Stout guy for sure. So, we'll see. We'll see how it translates. But I think he'll translate. I think he'll translate really well. So, we got like I said, tomorrow Kyle Shanahan speaks. We'll probably have some footage from the beat reporters giving us a look into OTAs, so we'll be able to react to that stuff. Obviously, a lot of roster moves going down. today. If you just joined us, Mitch Wishnowsky was waived. The 49ers signed a linebacker that I'm really high on. And a punter to replace him. So let's see how it goes. But again, shout out to everyone who tapped in for the live. Appreciate everyone who asked questions. Smash that like button for me on your way out. And we'll do some more content tomorrow. But appreciate y'all. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see you.